Hi, I'm your host Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm really excited today to welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast, all the way from Toronto in Canada, Sunir Shah, who's the founder and CEO of AppBind. AppBind is a platform which lets digital agencies manage subscriptions to software and ads for their clients without getting stuck in the middle of the billing. So it's really fascinating product, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you today. Sunil, welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast.
Well,
It's a
thanks for
great
having
privilege
me.
to have you here.
We are just saying, last time I talked to you in the prep interview, I was freezing on an ice rink, taking my kid to hockey while you were literally on fire, I think, in Australia.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. It was quite hot.
yeah. As Canadians and Australians are basically kissing cousins, this will be hopefully a fun interview. We can all feel sad for the Queen, though, because she's sick. And we'll do that together.
Yeah, that's right. Well, hopefully she'll be better soon. It's something that many people have gone through, so hopefully she'll
Yes.
come through it unscathed and fighting fit again.
All right.
Anyway, AppBind is your answer to fundamental challenges that have blocked service companies from really providing complete solutions to their customers, and I'm really looking forward to digging into that, and particularly your journey, how you came to that solution, and then some of the challenges that you've had growing the company. Before we do that, what's the impact you're making in the world today, Sonia?
Well, on like the Tuesday afternoon issue, like what I'm solving like immediately is for marketing agencies, mostly digital agencies, consultants, and there could be automation agencies, MSPs in there, but mostly these agencies who are small businesses. They're all digital now. Everything's subscription based. If you can't get the digital under control, you can't get your agency under control. And so many of them are back on the treadmill of hell of selling labor for money, which is not a sustainable way to build a business. You have to build a product of some kind. I don't mean necessarily software. I mean, you can productize your
Hmm.
services. You need to find something repeatable and scalable. Otherwise, every day your business starts from zero. And I've seen it for like, I don't know how many years. I started the marketing team at FreshBooks, which is invoicing for these agencies and consultants in 2007. So I've talked to 5,000 of these agencies. It has been a real market change, subscription economy on their business. It's been much harder to grow. That's kind of the biggest thing I'm doing right now. But in general, like what's my vision? I like my actual career objective is to make the internet a more glorious place. I'm sorry for I'm sorry for if you're too much on Twitter right now, but
That's
mostly what I'm working on right now is trying to figure out how to grow the economy of subscription software, because that's what we're going to be using for the next 10 years, so that every small business, every large business can have access to the best technology by building a market for cloud software distribution. And that's actually a really big and interesting challenge. I've been working on it for 10 years.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The whole idea of the subscription economy. I mean, it's probably been about 4 or 5 years that I've been exposed to it, with people talking about it, and the idea of taking a service that might be a once-off service, so solving this particular problem, but turning that into a product which essentially is a subscription service. So we'll take care of that for you all the time. So let's take it as an example, say content production, producing content like a podcast or like
Yeah.
videos or like writing blog posts, which is really important to have content as a presence on the internet. And you can say, well, I'll do that for you. I'll write 2 articles for you, and then that's done. And then you need to go and find another customer to write some more articles to sustain your income. Or you can say, well, we'll produce all your content for the next 12 months, and here's the monthly fee for that service.
Well, the advantage of going to subscription, even content, is that you go from being a stringer where you're just producing, like if your words like 1,000 words or one
Mm.
podcast episode, that's not hitting any objectives. When you go to subscriptions, you're no longer thinking about the treadmill of what labor you're doing for them.
Yeah.
You can start owning the overall goal. Like, what's the point of having a podcast anyway? There's
Mm.
a lot of podcasts. Like, it doesn't, it's not going to change the world having a podcast. Like, who's like, even no matter how interesting we're not going to end up being bought by Spotify for $100 million, right? What's the
Yeah.
point of it? We're trying to build a community around ourselves, build relationships, get our message out, meet new people, right? And so for a podcast agency, let's just say, it's not about producing one podcast a week. Like that's a tactical thing. It's about owning the objective. That's a subscription. Like, what is your goal with the podcast? Well, I want to meet. Like, we have a podcast. I want to meet as many marketing agencies as possible. That's what I'm working on with Agency Connect, and talk about the difficulty of actually managing digital. So you get your agency under control. That's an interesting conversation for me. But then I get to spread the word of AppBind and meet more people. And they can own that relationship. And then, of course, if you own that objective, and if you own that objective, then you realize there's actually a lot more you can do than just like video editing and audio editing. And it's like, oh, then I can do the placements. Yes, you can do the relationships. Yes, I can do the follow-up. Yes, I can start building lists. Yes, I can start. Maybe there's a community you can build around your podcast. There's certainly, why not? I mean, the podcast is really should be a forum, in my view, a forum for the whole community to come and talk. Yeah. And have conversations with itself, and so you should be building community around it. And then suddenly you own something much more substantial with more interesting work, and it's higher value. And of course, for an agency, that means you can end up in a more lucrative, sustainable position rather than just putting out, a $50 audio editing, project. That's nothing.
Right, yeah, and it's like a lot more fun too, because now you're kind of almost part of the business.
Well, it's not the whole point. Like, it's like for me, the glory of work. I mean, I can talk about all the we're building, designing, laying up pixels, and the computer science behind it. But the only reason I do anything is because when I have a customer going, "Oh wow, you changed everything for me. You made things possible." That's what I get off on. That's how I used to be a developer. I mean, I used to be in the dark room, head down, type faster.
Yeah.
And then I just kept wheedling my way closer to the customer until they finally said, "Sunir, why don't you come over to sales and marketing?" And I took the wrong potion and ended up in the wrong room for too long, and here I am in marketing. I mean, that's a series of unfortunate life decisions, perhaps, but I think it's more fun to be with customers, for me anyway, than with the keyboard. So, what's business for? It's for serving other people. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's a really great point. Now, in terms of taking that approach then to that subscription model and that kind of complete service package to be part of the customer's success and part of their long-term strategy, and then delivering tactical outcomes as part of that objective, what are some of the big challenges that AppBind addresses in that big picture?
Well, let me give you an analogy that I think, because you've been so many decades now, 2 decades in the subscription economy. I find a lot of people have forgotten what contracting is like, and I can tell you some stories. Maybe I will if you ask me about where I learned this, because I got fired by a client. In fact, most of the story comes from him yelling at me. Yeah. Actually, I'll tell you this story. So I was working with a fashion. That
is a fascinating story. Yeah.
So I was working with I was subcontracting. I was doing the analytics on an e-commerce site for someone who was making clothes. He was a tailor, fashion. He was building a brand of clothes, and he was building a bricks and mortar store at the same time. So, and it was like 6 weeks to launch, and he was like a go-getter, right? And I wanted analytics software. I didn't want to pay for any of this stuff like Amplitude, Branch, Segment, TalkDesk for the phone number. It was very expensive. That's all his data, and like a typical agency, I didn't want to buy it. So, of course, every Monday I said, okay, you need to sign up for these things. And he said, yeah, sure, no problem. Of course, he never did it. He's making clothes and he's making a store. These are obviously his priorities. The computer science nerd, that he wants all this stuff, like A/B split testing and Bayesian analysis. He didn't understand any of that. That's my problem. Okay, so 3 days from launch, 72 hours from launch, he notices there's still no phone number up on the website. And it's like, Sunir, what's the deal? Because the whole time, we actually had a great rapport because I was the other basically adult on the deal, coaching him through all the launch, all the project management and all this stuff. Because that's all I could do is I couldn't do any work. So I was just hanging out with him, at the executive level. And he's like, why is it, but you haven't done any work? I was like, oh yeah, well, you didn't sign up for anything. It's your fault. So I said to the client, no, that did not go over well. He's like, okay, let's get on a call, show me on a video call. Show me what to do. And in an hour of his remaining 72 hours, I made him like a child. Click here to invite me. Put your email in. Put your credit card in. It was awful, because getting a client to click on things is like the most infant. Just treating like an infant. It's very, very poor client management. Anyway, he had it out with me. He said, Sunir, my plumber doesn't make me buy my own pipes. I expect you to take care of this for me. Working with you is 10 times harder than not working with you. Just get it done. It's like, yep, absolutely. I bought the remaining subscriptions on my card. I canceled my card immediately because I didn't want to get renewed. Did an all-nighter, delivered it, and then he fired me, of course. And I asked him, a month later. We didn't. He was mad at me at the time, but we had a good rapport. And I said, entrepreneur, I have this idea for AppBind. Could I interview you as an exit interview to find out what happened? And he said, as a client, what was your experience? Yeah, Sunir, you wasted my time, confused me, slowed down the project for everyone else. And you also had to do an all-nighter. I don't even know how anyone can run a business and you can't even control your own time. That's ridiculous. I understand. He said, I understand the subscription thing, but I also don't get it. Like I said, my plumber doesn't. Normal contractors like my plumber would just take care of it for me, and that's what I expect you to do. And I said, okay, that's all true. I understand all that. That's why I wanted to do this thing called AppBind. So when did you decide to fire me? And this is, it still hurts to say this. He said, Sunir, the first call. Like, what? The first call? What? He's like, yeah, thinking back on it, it was the first project meeting we had, like 6 weeks, right at the beginning, the kickoff call. And I was like, what? I was like, yeah, I wasn't mad at you then, but you immediately started putting to-dos back on my plate that I expect you to take care of. I knew in my head, I didn't have time to deal with this because I was busy launching everything. I knew after the launch, I'm going to have to hire someone in-house to take care of this for me. I thought you'd be able to do it, but obviously there are things that you can't do, so I had to hire some staff. I knew that. So that's basically what it was. It was a bit disappointing because you clearly know what you're doing. You were going to be my guy, conversion rate optimization, analytics, ads. You would take me the whole path. And honestly, if I had done that, I wouldn't have an agency. I wouldn't have AppBind. Yeah, but he had to hire in-house staff. I've heard that story so many times. But this plumber thing he mentioned, I was like, tell me again about that plumber. Yeah, he just took care of it for me. It's like, oh yeah, that's exactly right. So, normal plumbers, your basement is leaking, right? You call a plumber, right? They're not going to ask you to evaluate, which sump pump fits with you. We'd like to talk to enterprise sales from a sump pump manufacturer. Like that would, would you like HubSpot or Salesforce though? That's what we do to clients, right? We'd like to talk to them. Like, no, I don't care. Just make something happen now. If your marketing funnel is leaking, just take care of it for me. Most average customers, they just want you to just take care of it. And the reason why is by the time they talk to a contractor, I've interviewed lots of clients since then, is like what happens is, they've already failed internally. They're already behind schedule. Their organization does not have the capacity, capability, or trust, or whatever reason. It just can't deliver the result. They had to go outside the organization to hire you. That's already quite stressful because their existing staff are quite annoyed, usually by this. And they're behind schedule, and they're already feel incompetent as an entrepreneur, right? Because they couldn't achieve it. So they come to you. Their anxiety level is through the roof, right? And universally, every agency, every contractor, whether it's a marketing agency or a plumber or even a nail salon on the bride's wedding day, they're selling the same thing: calm and control back to the client. It's like they have a huge anxiety. They just want to get their life back in control. That's all you really need to deliver, and they want you to just take care of it for them because they have no idea how to deal with it. They're overwhelmed, right? And so the opportunity for any agency is to be that person, the reliable person who's not giving them a hard time, will take care of things, get things done, do it in a pleasant way. Because don't forget, every entrepreneur knows your employees always want to do less for more money. Your customers always want to pay you less money for more things. Your investors always want you to just deliver more revenue. You're squeezed by all places. Your contractors, the only people who just universally just 100% focused on you. And so if you can be that person and take care of things, they're never going to get rid of you. And, that's how it used to be before subscriptions. When I was younger, I worked for a Microsoft system integrator. We'd always have 3-year contracts. My president of that consultancy said to me, "Senior, we never do a project unless we're building a system that we get to maintain. The work that you're doing right now is just the hello, right? But what we really want is the relationship with the customer as their partners to build out the system and maintain it. Because if you maintain a system for 3 years, then you're going to upgrade it and change it and modify it, and you have a 10-year client, right? And from their point of view, the system is you, right? And that's really true. Like that's how they think, I think a lot of agencies who do content, they're writing posts, right? That's just the treadmill
Yeah,
of labor. You're just selling human labor.
that's right.
But you should be building a system. Like clients don't care about the content. What they want is the content to deliver the result. So if you're doing content, you should be posting it, doing the SEO, doing the promotion side of it, doing the relationship work, the guest blogging, the podcast, like guest podcasting. You should be building assets. You should be turning ebooks, building lead magnets, getting the marketing funnel and lead capture. This is what content is for. You can own all of that if you're willing to become not just a marketing agency, but a marketing tech agency. And the stickiness and value is so much higher. Customers will never get rid of you if you do that.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, the first step, I think, from what I'm hearing is to change the mindset from the agency. Like, as agency owners, we need to change our mindset to let's serve the customer and help them achieve their objective, which generally can be kind of summed up as get more business. And if you then chunk it down one level and say, well, how do we get more business there? And where do we fit in? How can we do that? And then pull it all together by being the plumber, basically going in, okay, that's what needs to be done. I'll take care of everything.
It's actually interesting you say it that way, to get more business, because I was prepping for this in my head. And one of the things we're talking about before is like how we position AppBind and thinking about this anxiety issue of my clients. And so before I was at AppBind, I was at CMO at Olark Live Chat, and then I quit with my third child and wanted to have some pat leave and was consulting. And I was doing more this part of my career when I was consulting, because I've been in and out of software companies and consulting back and forth my whole career. So I've seen both sides. And at this time, I was more of an executive consultant. So the CEOs were my clients. And universally, when the CEOs hired me, they had no idea what was going on in their business anymore, because they had spent so much time building the company. It's not like they didn't know anything. I want to be careful. It's that they had been so distant from being in the customer development phase of the company, because they had built it. They were, when you're CEO, problems change as your company grows. So they're focusing on internal matters, fundraising, hiring, other things that are not market facing. And then what happens is they set the annual corporate goal. It's always more revenue. That's all my clients. The goal was more revenue, build, or as you say, build a business. And I said to them, if you ever take a driving test, like lessons, wherever you look is where you're going to drive. And if you look at your bank account, because that's what you're looking at, that's where you're looking for money. The problem is your bank account already has all your money. It doesn't have any more money. It's already yours. And so if you're only looking at your bank account, more revenue, you're never going to find more revenue, right? A corporate goal has to be market facing, right? It has to be from the customer's point of view. You have to be making a change in the market outside of you, right? If you want to generate revenue, right? There are other goals like, I guess, compliance, resilience, whatever, robustness, if you want to improve internal operations. But if you want to be revenue generating, the revenue comes from the market. Your goals have to be for the market. And so if you're building, what I would say as an agency, every contractor is taking care of their customer, bringing them calm and control. That is fundamental to contracting. That's been since the age of the pyramids. That's how contracting works. Okay. So, but what is it that your clients are freaking out about that you can repeatably solve, and only your clients? So if you're a podcast, I'm worried about building a podcast that's sustainable because it's time consuming. That's one thing. I'm also worried about getting an audience, because it's actually podcast audience building is very difficult. Because most podcasts, are very difficult to listen to. I hope this is entertaining, right? But you know what I mean.
Yeah,
you want to be a little bit more interesting, and then you want to then use the podcast presumably in a B2B context for sales, building relationships, right? Those are things that they care about in the podcast agency world. So then, are you really building your business? You can only build your business by building your client's business. You have to take that one step outside your comfort zone and try to flip the script and say, what is your client freaking out about? And I will say it's actually surprisingly very few agencies have an answer to this. I do ask this question every time I do an Agency Connect podcast now. I'm actually amazed how many people don't have an answer to this question. It's interesting to me. It's pretty normal, but you need an answer.
That's fascinating. And that's fascinating. And we do this exercise to really get clear on ideal client or dream client, we call them. And in that exercise, we certainly focus on what are the big problems, what are the issues, and what are they looking to change, what's the transformation they want to have. And certainly you touched on one of them there that really is a category of that. It's what are they freaking out about, and where's and in the case of podcasts, and I'm sure this is true of many things, it's we don't have time to do that.
Yeah. Then the question, then you can keep going. The 6 levels of why. So like, why you don't have time to do it, but why are you building a podcast, and why? Like, why even have a podcast then? If you don't have time, there must be a reason they want one.
Yeah.
But why? And then why is that? And then why is that? There's some underlying goal. It could be ego, which would be the worst reason to have a podcast. But probably it's a very good marketing channel, right?
It is.
And so, like, what is the goal here? And then who's your actual audience that you want to cultivate? And an audience is the weakest form of audience, because it's 2022. The community is the only
community.
That's
right.
You want to get to, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to have a multi-way conversation, with every podcast.
So that then brings us back to kind of the plumber analogy, where we say, okay, well, you have to go buy these pipes and you have to go buy these pumps and so on. So if you look at, say, a podcast or a website, might be another system that people would be really familiar with. We say, well, you've got to have somewhere to host your podcast audio. You've got to have somewhere to host your video if you're doing video. You've got to have a system that you can bring your community in to have the conversations, a platform. You've got to have something that you can distribute that. You've got to have editing software for the audio. You've got to have editing software for the video. So here's half a dozen places where I want you to go and sign up and make accounts so that we can do all these things. So
and remember, they don't have time in the first place. So then immediately they're like, it's exhausting. Like they don't know what to do, right? And it's so unprofessional, right? To like, they're already confused. They already feel terrible, right? And like make them feel worse. Like the clients will fire you the moment you make them more anxious, right? So the moment you put stuff back on their plate, you're risking them feeling increased anxiety working with you. And the moment their anxiety goes up, you're fired. Because I've learned this. I've asked so many people. I have another story actually of a client from it's not me. It's also good to give you an example of this. It's great. So when I was at Olark Live Chat, I was at Magento Imagine, it's e-commerce platform, shopping cart. It's like similar to Shopify but open source, and they have a huge community. And there was a guy there. He was 1,000 years old, and this is very important to understand. He's like, so he owned a chocolate factory in New England somewhere. Okay, and I sat down with lunch with him, and he opened with, I don't want to be here. I hate it here. Keep in mind it was Vegas, and it was 45 degrees Celsius. Okay, and I was like. And he was wearing a suit because he's old, like 1,000 years old. And he's like boiling. It's like, so I'm like, why are you here? Listen, I don't want to be here. I hired these whiz kids from Manhattan, right, to build my e-commerce website. And I knew it was whiz kids. I knew who he was talking about. I was like, okay, yeah. But did they do anything for me? And I said, I assume so. And then conversation stopped because he had to pick up a phone. Because simultaneously he was at lunch. He was dealing with a trucking union issue. Okay, because that's what he's a CEO of a chocolate factory. That's real. That's his problems. He's like dealing with actual issues. It's like, okay, so he gets off the phone. Continues. Yeah, they didn't do anything for me. I was like, oh, what? Okay, yes. What are you talking about? Well, they made me. Basically they made him sign up for everything. He was confused. He didn't know anything about websites. He didn't care. He just knows he needs an e-commerce site because he's a chocolate factory. Okay. So then he says, well, I went to the IT guy. He didn't know anything about this, and I didn't have a marketer, so I ended up having to hire these college kids from New England. And I was like, okay. And he said, do you think I got the best people? And because they were here with him at Vegas, because I think they were with him at the table. Like they were at the table. So I was like, I didn't know. I was like I assumed that they were right there next to him. So I said, yes. And he's like, no, I didn't get the best people. Are you kidding me? It's a community college in New England. These are whiz kids in Manhattan. These whiz kids are obviously the best. I only hired the best. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. You just insulted your own staff. But listen, I love my kids because he's 1,000 years old. Who do you think I saw at the Christmas party every year? Your kids? Yes, I saw them. And I care about them. I'm willing to invest in them. I didn't see the whiz kids. So who do you think I fired? The whiz kids? That's right. I fired them. And then he gets on the phone again because now he's dealing with like an auto mechanic issue, because it's like, just take care of it. That's what I remember him selling that. Hangs up. It's like, so this is what the issue. I need someone to take care of this for me. They are very hungry. I care about them. They're obviously young kids. I came to Vegas to make sure they're okay because he's 1,000 years old. He thinks he'll get in trouble in Vegas. But I hate being here, but I care about my kids. I'm bringing them here, right? And I was like, okay, you hired internal staff that were not the best, right? But you had to do that because you can't handle it yourself. The agency made you do the work that you didn't want to do. So for your point of view, it's better to have internal staff that are not the greatest and have them learn from the agency and then fire the agency. It's like, yeah, you got it. That's basically how it goes. I've never seen anything like this, but it seems to be what you tech guys are into. It's like, okay. And it's like, okay. For me, that was the first time I'd heard someone explain this story, and then having experienced it myself later on, it really put it together. Like, this is not an uncommon scenario. When I was at FreshBooks, we had benchmarks, between subscription and licensed software. It was 2007 to 12. I was there. I could see that it was true. Everyone around licensed software had like 3-year engagements and large service revenue contracts. Agencies around the subscription era had less service revenue and shorter client engagements. And I never really understood it until I had that conversation with this guy from the chocolate factory, is that, as much as you want to hire the whiz kids, the smart agency, the moment they throw work back to you, you're going to have to hire somebody eventually to take over because you don't have the wherewithal. You don't have time for this, right? And that's what we're always doing. We're always firing ourselves as agencies. We're always firing ourselves from the client by saying, no, I can't take care of it for you, right? And that is the question I give to every agency. Are you saying no when you shouldn't be? You should be saying yes.
Yeah. So coming back to some of the problems we talked about, or some of the possible scenarios that happen where we ask clients to, hey, sign up for this service because you're going to need that to do X, and sign up for this one because you're going to need that to do Y. How does AppBind actually work to kind of take that off the client's plate and enable the agency to do everything for them?
Yeah, it's very actually simple, a very clever solution. I like to pat myself on the back because, I spent $500,000 in today's money at FreshBooks trying to build like a reseller portal for FreshBooks for our reseller channel. Well, we call them resellers because we're software companies and arrogant that way. What I realized is first, you're not a reseller as an agency. You're not selling someone else's software. You're selling yourself, and you're a solution partner. You're creating a solution, which is a system of technology, because that's your product. You're building a system out of other components, like a plumber, pipes, and valves. And then the second, like, what is a subscription? So it's an email and credit card, really. So what AppBind does is allows you to create a shared virtual email and a shared virtual credit card that allows you to sign up on behalf of a client for anything. And what it will do is it'll forward the emails to you so you can manage the account, and forwards them to the client so they own the account. And the credit card tracks all the charges automatically so that you don't have to do bookkeeping, and we automatically bill the client. And the way we do that is actually we set up a subscription budget so that they provide you basically an expense account. They pre-fund you, and then you always have money on hand to go buy their subscriptions, and it just automatically tops itself back up. Kind of like if you've ever been to Starbucks or a Subway with tap card. Once it goes below a threshold, it tops itself back up. So there's always money sitting there rotating, rolling through, and you can buy their subscriptions. But the advantage of doing it this way, like I said, is once you get permission, and the whole point about AppBind is about providing a transparent, trustworthy way to your client to say, I'll take care of it for you. Everything I build for you, you should own and control because it's your business and your data. I'm going to use this subscription manager so everything's organized in one place. Then you can start building systems out, like everything you need. You're not just limited to Facebook ads and HubSpot or Riverside and good luck. That's you can start building out the website, the email capture, the content, the online community. You can set up a Slack account. You can start doing more and more and answering more and more problems, right? And that system that you're building out is all inside AppBind, of all the subscriptions, and that becomes really compelling for you and the client because you've taken on this complexity and you brought in more tools as leverage, right? So that you can deliver more value, and then of course your retainers around it can increase, and then you have a sustainable advantage with the client and a reason to keep talking to them month after month because you're building with them which is something quite different than working for them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does the collection of revenue and management of the revenue work then? So the agency bills the client one bill, and then part of that money goes to the AppBind account for these purchases, and the rest is the fee for the agency.
Yeah,
Is that
so
how it
there's three
works?
ways to make money. So by the way, AppBind, we just charge 1% of the money flowing through us. And of course, if the client's loading money by credit card, there's the Stripe fees that go along with that. So that's the
Yeah.
fees for AppBind. So, if you're doing $2,000 a month, we charge $220 a month, which should be less than your bookkeeping. It's a bookkeeping charge. It should be less than your bookkeeping costs if you're doing it by hand. So that's us. That's our fees. But here's how you make money. So the client, we set up this subscription budget for the app expenses. So it's always topping itself up. So you always know there's money there for recurring charges. With AppBind, you can also add a markup on the subscriptions. Typically, it's 10 to 20% just for your own bookkeeping and management. Ads are 25% typically. We'll automatically calculate all of that for you. We were also just adding now, so by the time this actually comes out, presumably, service revenue will be in there, so you can add your retainers. So either a one-time setup fee or a monthly retainer inside the same subscription. We create something called a subscription order, which is like a purchase order for the whole project. So you can add yourself to that subscription order plus all the apps. And then the third way to make money, which is underappreciated. Actually, another Australian told me this, Scott Gelati from IT Genius. I was like, oh, commissions don't matter. Commissions don't matter. Actually, he said, no, they do, because there's sustainable recurring revenue. And his multiple when he sold his agency, IT Genius, on the commission revenue was significantly higher than the service revenue to clients. So you should absolutely take also, a lot of partners have commission programs. Almost all of them are referral based. Which is awful because you end up with this kind of love triangle on like who puts referral links in front of clients. That's obviously deeply unprofessional. But with AppBind, you're signing up actually, right? Yeah. So that you can get your own, use your own referral link, sign up, tag the account, and yes, take the commission money. Actually, more valuable than that as well is that I know all these SaaS vendors. I run their trade association of all the SaaS partnership people. They rely on these referral programs to find the agencies that have a lot of clients. So when they have a customer looking for an agency, they use a referral program to find them. What will happen as you build relationships with the vendors, you will start getting client referrals from them, right? Especially if you work on it. And that will change your agency completely, right? Because you will have now a sustainable source of clients. So the partner programs are also the third often missed but very important part of your agency's revenue growth strategy with AppBind.
Yeah, that's a really neat model. I really like that, and I have started exploring it. I'm going to have to dig a lot deeper into that because I can see the possibilities there to really transform how you work with clients and how you can help them, and what that opens up in terms of the possibilities of taking on a lot more work for the client, making the client's life easier, and as you say, kind of making them feel a lot happier rather than stressing them out.
Well, I'm happy to have you as a customer. So.
All right. Well, this is fabulous. I think we've really covered a lot of ground already, and I love the stories of how you recognized the problem and how you kind of used your technical skills to develop something that addresses it. I think it's a good point now to move on to the buzz, which is our innovation round. It's the same 5 questions we ask of every guest. And the idea, of course, is to give some fantastic insights and action points that the listener can implement right away.
All right, I'm ready.
Great. All right. What's the number one thing anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
Get yourself into trouble. So our strategy, our design strategy at AppBind is to make a glorious mess and then have people complain and fix it. So, I mean, we don't make a terrible mess, but even with AppBind's positioning, original message to agencies, which is a stupid message, I know, but SaaS companies use it all the time, and we want to know what was wrong with it, was buy software and sell it to your clients, which I know is stupid, but I put it out there, and then I went to I had a cocktail party with agencies called Agency Connect Cocktails, which I run. And I just cornered some of my friends. Like, what is wrong with this? And then they got so mad at me because it was such a terrible message. And they're just like, I don't want to be in the middle of billing, Sunir. It's like, thank you so much for explaining it to me. You know, the best way to be innovative is to assume you are a dummy dum-dum. and don't know anything, and then get your friends or whomever to like say the wrong thing and be brave enough to have them tell you to your face how dumb you are, because that's the only way to learn. Instead of
And then
assuming that you have to be
and
the
then
expert all the time.
set
Especially if
ego
you-
aside and listen.
yeah. And the only way to innovate is to try something new, which is to assume that you don't know the answer, right? So
Yeah.
there you go.
So the experiment is important.
That's right.
Great. I love that. Yeah. All right. What's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas? I think you've outlined that in extensively here, but maybe you could kind of summarize it as an action step.
Yeah, honestly, it's getting yelled at all the time is the way to go. But let me give you another game while we're on this. So on the same vein of being at a cocktail party, I have this game called the Pitch Me game. So I have a master's degree in user research and design. So I have like really complicated user research methods. They take too long. I don't care. The best way now we're back in person this year, thank God. Go to a party. You know how it is. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Okay, you do that for the first third of the night. And then what you do is stop answering that question. Because some people at that group now already know the answer to that. Get them to introduce you to someone else. It's called the Pitch Me game. And the great thing that will happen is because it's a party, they're going to want to do the best pitch for you, presumably, if you're a nice person, right? And so they will pitch you in the best possible way. And the key, what I learned is when they do that, number one, first, no one can understand anyone else's pitch except from the concepts already in their own mind. That's actually a fundamental theory of human behavior. They can only understand things from things they already understand, right? So whatever your message is to the market can only be constructed from ideas already in the market. That's fundamental positioning, right? And so whatever they understood is what it is what all the market can understand. And second, they're pitching you as best as they can. So it's really what they wanted you to be. And if you keep hearing the same thing over and over again at that party from people, because you got to do it more than once, right? That is what your company should be doing, period. Whatever you think it's doing, it isn't. And so there's actually really two rules: shut up and shut up. Those are because you didn't listen to the first rule. I'm too busy talking. Just stop talking and listen. This is surprisingly effective. And the weirdest time I've ever done this was at South by Southwest with Ev Williams, who founded Twitter. And this was back when they were doing their Series C funding, and we're just hanging out because we were one of their examples in their deck. So I was hanging out with him, and we were playing the Pitch Me game with him about what Twitter is. Little did I know, but it was kind of fun to see what other people would say. It's amazing. The insights. Like you always think you know the answer, but actually other people have totally different perspectives.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat.
Yeah, and there's a lot of value in listening to how other people see you as well. And as you say, there's often that's a much better message.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What's a favorite resource you use most often, other than AppBind, of course?
Well, I have my trade association, which is all my besties. So the Cloud Software Association is 4,000 SaaS partnership leaders. So if you're in the partnership side, come there. Also, a lot of agency leaders there too, who are trying to work with SaaS companies. So I built that. So that's my resource. So that's a bit self-serving. And our conference is coming up April 27, 28. So you should buy a ticket. Besides stuff that I control, actually, you know what? Speaking of podcasts, I like Noah Kagan's podcast quite a lot. He's a friend of mine. Okay, Dork. He's also fairly self-aware as being an anxious CEO, because I think a lot of CEOs bluster, and of course, being a CEO is a hair-pulling out kind of experience. And he talks about that experience, and he talks with other entrepreneurs going through that journey. And I think it's probably one of the better podcasts. So I listened to that one. Yeah.
Okay, sounds fascinating. I'll have to check that out. I'm not familiar. I know of Noah, but I haven't listened to his podcast.
He's the founder of AppSumo, and he started the marketing at Mint and a bunch of other things. He's a very interesting person, for sure.
Yeah. All right, great. So, what's the best way to keep a client on track and make things easy for them? I'm imagining.
That is a very interesting question. I have this attitude that you should project manage everybody, your customer, like your potential sales prospects, your partners, your clients. Actually, the older I get, the harder it is to project manage because I have so much going on. So I'm the worst client ever. That's what I tell every agency. I want more, better, faster, cheaper yesterday. That's what I tell them. The best way to keep you on track is keep a very simple project management doc of whatever your 5 bullets are. A lot of people use Asana, which is a mystery to me. ClickUp is a new one. It's also a bunch of screens I don't understand. personally, just the 5 bullets of what you're working on right now, and meet every week at the beginning of the week. Honestly, the client doesn't care about your details. They just want to know the bullets are getting done. And I think a lot of people get too much into the weeds because they're also getting the client to do a lot of work.
Make it too complicated, yeah.
Yeah, this agency I work with every day, Sellworthy. I'm just giving them grief today because I'm the worst client ever. I tell them, like, I asked them to, we have to scrape a site to get some leads or whatever, and they put it back on me. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go in and start doing it, I guess. But it was a detail that I wasn't expecting, to do. So we're like, it was a miscommunication, right? This is a common thing. But if we had the 5 bullets, every Monday showed up on Slack, and they're like, oh, okay, this is what has to work on, and I could deprioritize something because I can only handle so much cookie as a client. I've like way too much going on in my life to deal with agency to-dos, right? Like, that's your job to take care of it. Yeah. So 5 things every Monday, bullet points, by email, Slack, whatever, Google Doc. Keep it simple. Asana, ClickUp, I don't care. That's your problem. I just want to see one email. Yeah.
That's I think that's great advice from, particularly from the point of view of bringing things into focus. And I'm a big fan of this 1-3-5 philosophy every day. So I have an identified task that must be done today. That's my 1. And then there's 3, they're the ones I get to next if I finish that 1. And then 5 are kind of like the bonus. If I'm really productive, I might get to some of those 5s. And some of those might migrate to a 3 or a 1 the next day. But the idea is that you're focused on that one thing that is the most important today. And if that's the only thing you get done, you can still pat yourself on the back and say, yep, I got the most important thing done. That's moved the needle. And compared to a complex project management thing, you might have 8 things or 9 things listed, and you say, oh, that was no good, because it'll report back and saying, well, you only did 1 of the 9.
Yeah, actually reflecting back on it, I worked for agencies who sold anxiety. Like, they try to make the client more anxious as a way, because they try to like make the client feel discombobulated, so they pick up more work because they feel even more confused. But they end up getting fired, and like the client engagements got shorter. And these were the clients I interviewed them as well, because I was subcontracting with them, and I was like, what's going on? It's like, I just feel terrible working with you guys. And actually, this is the thing, like, you may be actually have a lot to do, and you might want to show the client you're doing a lot of work, but what they really just want to see is calm and control. So yeah, it's 1-3-5 is an excellent strategy. Like, this is what we're doing this week. These are our priorities, and they're getting done. Bullets. I think every client would be much happier just seeing the bullets, so they can put this whole problem out of their mind. That's actually what they really want. Most of them, anyway. Like 95% of the time. Yeah. Okay.
All right. What's the number 1 thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
Oh, that is a paradox of a question, because if everyone did the same thing, they wouldn't differentiate themselves.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm going to give a ridiculous answer. So I noticed every organization follows the leader's personality. I went to Marshall McLuhan School, so I believe everything is an aspect of our internal psyche, right? So every tool is an aspect of our arms. Like the organization has to be a reflection of how we manage ourselves internally. If you are a better person and are a more honest person with yourself, you'll have a better and stronger, more resilient company. You have a better, stronger, resilient customer base. You have a better, stronger, resilient community around you, a better, stronger, resilient family around you. The more you are okay with being whatever you are, if you're an anxious person or a neurotic person or an excited person or an energetic person or an extroverted person or a caring person, it's okay. You don't have to lie about it. I think a lot of entrepreneurs bluster their way through things. And I have come to the point in my life where I'm just going to be me. And, I'm not going to be the most polished CEO, but I am genuinely interested in everybody. And therefore I want to be myself so that we can have a real relationship, And so the most important thing to differentiate yourself is you're already different. Be yourself. And that's really difficult, but it takes bravery, because it's terrifying to be yourself, because you're incomplete and imperfect, and it never will be complete or perfect. But Honestly,
That's
it's
and that's okay.
stronger.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's great advice. And I think you said something there in that that is so important, and that's building the relationships is kind of the key thing. And if you do the work on yourself to understand who you actually are and what your strengths are, where your shortcomings are, be okay with, I mean, looking to constantly improve, yes, but also be okay with the shortcomings to the point of I'm not going to beat up on myself because I'm an introvert and I find it difficult to go and talk to people at events, for example, in my case. And yet I do things like podcasting and speak to strangers on podcasts. So I'm working on improving that element. But at the same time, it's not something I pretend to be different. I'm comfortable with where I'm at. And so knowing that and being authentic, actually, I find that it helps build relationships with people much more easily than trying to follow some recipe that somebody else has put together.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Stop playing poker with people. Just be you. It's not a game. Don't push on each other. Then you can build bridges. All right.
Wonderful. Love it. This has been fabulous, Sunir. Now, where can people find out more about you, about AppBind, get in touch to say thanks for what you've shared today, and
Everyone should
maybe
buy
even sign up?
AppBind. Thousands of it. You buy 9 AppBinds, the 10th one's free. No, that's not how it works at all. The AppBind, AppBind.com. So, as in Banana India in November, December. Because we're nerds. We're such dorks. Bind as in contract binding is what we called it. Such dorks. Anyway, appbind.com. If you're an agency or a consultant and you do want to get to a sustainable path of how do you stop burdening clients and wasting time, you can set up their stack, take care of them without getting in the middle of their financial risk, then use AppBind. And if you're a SaaS vendor trying to work through this channel, come talk to us. We have a solution for you too. I'm on LinkedIn, Sunir Shah, and my email is also Sunir at AppBind, Sunir. So September, Uncle, November, India, Romeo, at appbind.com. And the Cloud Software Association as well. So if you are into partnerships, come hang out with us too. We buy drinks. Simple.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll include all those links in the show notes so people can click straight through.
Amazing.
Sunir, do you have any parting advice for our listener as we wrap up?
More advice?
More advice. Make things easy for the customer.
Oh my God. Yeah, I got lots of advice. So I'm actually as I'm going through this, I'm actually feeling more and more overwhelmed because I have all the agency to-dos and project management, and how my own project management system has gotten way out of control because I'm way over my skis right now. Canadian expression. It's worth once in a while. Two things: declaring bankruptcy on email. If it's like more than 4 months old, just delete it. I use a tool called Maelstrom as well, which is awesome to manage my email because it tells you all where all the stuff is. But every so often, when you have like a Sunday evening to yourself, write everything down on a piece of paper that's in your mind because it takes effort. And then whatever you put down is probably what's bothering you. And then just everything else in your PM you can probably get rid of because if you didn't write it down, you don't care about it. So that's what I would say. Use your Sunday evenings to use paper and pen occasionally. Yeah,
I love that. And since we're on video now, I can actually share my beautiful. There it is, my beautiful collection of Lamy Safari pens, which I love to use. They're all different colors, and that's what I use them for. Sit down and write some things out.
Amazing.
So great advice. Love it. Yeah. All right. Finally, who else should we get on the show, Sunir, and why?
God, so many questions. Okay, this is
That's the last one.
Question 8 of the five buzz round. I mean, Noah's great, obviously. Clodagh Hagen's actually good. If you want to talk to more agency stuff, Clodagh is she used to be the head of HubSpot agencies EMEA, and so she now works at the Grow It Group, and she knows a ton about actually how to run an agency. Because I think one thing about being an agency, a lot of people just fall. Well, I don't think I know because I've talked to thousands of them. A lot of people just fall into it because for whatever reason, you sell time for money, and then you start doing that, and you have no idea how agencies are properly structured because you never worked for anyone other than yourself, and then you end up in trouble because the treadmill is hell, and you can't get out of it. You don't know how to productize anything. You don't know how to organize yourself. You don't know how to get your first hire. You have your first hire. You don't know how to get your second hire. You don't know how to build operations. You don't know how to finance it. What happens if your clients fall apart? Then you have to lay off people. That's a lot of financial risk. People don't know how to manage it. Clodagh doesn't know the answer to this, so I would interview her.
All right, well, we'll get an introduction to Clodagh, and we might also get an introduction to Noah from you and start some conversations with them to see if we can bring them on the show as well.
Amazing.
So thanks so much for sharing your time and your insights with us so generously today. Sunir, it's been a pleasure to talk about AppBind, to hear the stories that kind of led you to realise that there was a need for a service like this and for agencies to actually take care of their customer and make things easier for them rather than keep putting additional tasks on their plate to allow you to do your job. So thanks for that. All the best for the future, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.